I'd like to call the June 21st City of Belton Planning Commission session to order. And could we have the roll call, please?
Chairman McPherson?
Here.
Mayor Larkey?
Here.
Councilmember Powell?
Here.
Commissioner McDonough?
Here.
Commissioner Monahan Bass? Commissioner Vest?
Here.
Commissioner Christie? Commissioner Anderson? Here. And Commissioner Warren.
Thank you. So first item that we have on our agenda this evening would be for the approval of the minutes from our April 19th meeting, and would entertain a motion. All right, see, Commissioner Anderson moved. Is there a second? Thank you. So we do have motion second. Are there any corrections or amendments that need to be made before we vote? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes from the April 19 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have to abstain because I wasn't here.
Okay, that's right. We should introduce, we do have a new representative on the commission from our city council, and that is Councilman Powell. And glad to have you representing the
Thank you.
council with us now. So, all right. This evening we have several non-public hearing items for consideration, and we will move ahead with the first, which is the consideration of a final development plan for building number 4 in Southview Commerce Center, located at 5901 East 155th Street and 6107 East 155th Street. Director?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, as Mr. McPherson stated, we have 4 agenda items this evening, and all 4 of those pertain to the expansion of Southview Commerce Center, pertaining to building number 4. And these are all follow-up final items, follow-up to action that the Planning Commission and the City Council undertook with the rezoning and preliminary plans in March and April of just earlier this year. The first item pertains to the final development plan for building 4. And as the chairman stated, these are addresses on East 55th Street, just east of I-49. The first application is for that final development plan for Building 4. The plan provides for the expansion of Southview Commerce Center, with Building 4 being a 501,000 square foot industrial and distribution facility. The application pertains to 2 parcels of property. As we learned with the rezoning and preliminary plan, the first property is 5901 East 155th Street, which is the blighted former site of the Century Concrete plant. It's about a 6-acre site, and this property has been vacant for approximately 15 years. The second site is a 20-acre parcel at 6107 East 155th Street. This is improved with a single-family home and approximately 10 sheds and barns. It's an old family farmstead. The final development plan is in compliance with the Flex Commercial Industrial District of the North Scott Corridor Plan, and Building 4 would be identical to the 3 existing buildings in the Southview Commerce Center. The final development plan, as I stated, is in compliance with the preliminary documents that were approved in March. The development plan provides for 1 industrial distribution building, as stated, for 501,000 square feet on the 27-acre site. The building would be a cross-dock facility with dock doors on the east and west elevation. The north elevation facing 155th Street, as you can see on the overhead here, includes corner office areas with transparent glass and defined entryways, and you have those same features on the south elevation with the office towers on the corners. The maximum height of the building with those office towers on the corners is 51 feet. Now, the building height varies across the length of the building to meet the articulation requirements of the Flex Commercial Industrial District. But the overall permitted building height in that zoning classification is 75 feet, so the building does not exceed the maximum height requirements. The Building 4 site plan provides for 25% open space, green space, and the North Scott Corridor plan requires 20% open space. This is the landscape plan that we have on the overhead, and we'll talk more about that orientation in just a moment. The building designs meet the North Scott Corridor design standards for articulation and exterior building materials. Very difficult to see on the overhead, but this is the colored elevation that was submitted by the applicant and in the packet for the Planning Commission. The building meets the required ground floor massing and proportional requirements of the overlay district. The facade articulation with different heights along the length of the building, and the exterior material requirements meet the masonry standards of the overlay district. The landscape plan that we have is in a very attractive portion of the final development plan. A major element of the plan is a landscape buffer on the adjoining Tract 5, which is a later agenda item this evening, but these are also integrated together. I'll talk briefly about it now. This proposed Tract A in Lot 5 provides screening and separation from the single-family homes to the east. The buffer detail here, you see the buffer meanders throughout that tract. It's a 10-foot buffer planted with evergreen trees, shrubs, and sections of 6-foot cedar fencing. And that's essentially the same buffer and landscape design you see in other portions of Southview Commerce Center. And the landscape plan also designates areas of existing trees to remain, and that is at this location. Existing tree stand remains as an existing natural buffer. The landscape plan also provides required shade trees in the parking lot islands, and landscape planting around the foundations of the building. The final development plan also includes a 8-foot multi-use asphalt trail. That trail has connections to the building. It's difficult to see here on the plan, but connection here. The trail comes at this location, nicely separates the detention basin from the buffer, comes down to this location, connects back to the residential plat, which we'll talk about later on the agenda, and proceeds west and ties back into the existing trail north of Building 3. So that provides desirable connectivity throughout the office park and to the residential area. The final development plan includes a site and building lighting photometric plan. The plan indicates light levels at the edge of the paving surface, and the staff noted that, and the plan should be revised at building permit to provide light levels at the property line and just not the edge of the paving surface. So that's a revision that we'll be asking the applicant to make. Detention for Building 4, again, is in this Tract A of the 5th plat. Stormwater management here. That provides stormwater management also for the single-family subdivision, and is an additional stormwater basin along 155th Street in front of the building, and those are designed to meet the detention requirements of our Unified Development Code, and those are similar to the other detention basins in the industrial park. In conclusion, the staff recommends approval of the final development plan. For Building 4, as I stated, this final development plan is consistent very much so with the preliminary plan that was submitted with the rezoning application in March, and it's subject to just several conditions in that staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point, And the applicant is here for just a brief follow-up presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director. So, do we have any questions for the Director at this point? Councilman Powell.
Okay, the loading docks, I think, are the horizontal bars next to the grid, which is the building, I guess. What are the other horizontal bars to the left of those?
Am I in the right place here?
Yeah, those are the loading docks, I guess. What's to the left of there?
This is trailer parking at this location. Yes.
Okay, so there'll be truck engines in there at times. I mean, unloading trucks. I mean, not unloading trucks, but dropping off trailers.
Yes, it's a trailer drop area.
Okay.
Trailers will queue up here for later access to the loading docks as necessary.
Well, I got a comment. Back in, and correct me for going into the history, but back in 2018, there was in the original plan for North Point, there were 5 buildings, and there was a noise survey based on that, and they were arranged differently, and now they're arranged 4 buildings in a row. So in that original plan, there was a noise survey report that was done by Kimley Horn, and they commented that Belton had required 55 dBA LEQ. That's a noise level, just like a speed limit, 55, at the fence line. And their map showed that with that original configuration, the max was 53.6. So they said we met Belton's requirement. Even though the requirement isn't in the UDC or the COO, it is a requirement. Dave and I have talked a lot about the requirement. I think it came from Olathe, and it talks about, and in Olathe they use it only as a daytime level, not as a nighttime level. Their nighttime level is 50, but be that as it may, we gave them 55. They met 55 with the original layout. But what's happened now is, like I said, we're much closer to the community, particularly, and I always refer to Dallas halfback Grant Hill, but the Grant Street and the Hill Street, and I think even these new houses in the new subdivision are closer to the noise survey than the original survey or original layout. And it was, in fact, that noise, again, just to refresh your memories, nobody from Kimley Horn that I know of came to Belton. They performed a study in Minnesota, and then they plopped that study or that survey down on top of a map of the Southview golf course. And they did not consider truck movement, gearing, loading dock noise, backup horns, front end loaders, etc. Just 3 trucks idling, which they mimicked with 3 trucks going at 1 or 2 miles an hour. And actually, that other noise from the loading docks is addressed in our COO and in 14130/4. Anyway, that noise map was superimposed, showed 55 dBA was met, but it also showed that 55 dBA extended out from the from the fourth one, the one that's closest to the west. It extended out for 348 feet. So you go out, it's noisy, it gets less and less and less. You get out 348 feet from the loading dock, and that's where there's 55 dBA. That same map shows that you only have to go out 225 feet to get to 60 dBA. Well, this presentation, and I got a copy of it beforehand, and I did the little superimposed credit there at the bottom. Anyway, it shows that the fence line is 175 to 250 feet from the nearest loading dock, and based on that report, or based on the Kimley Horn report, again, it's 3 years old, says that the noise level at the fence line is going to be over 55. In fact, possibly over 60, particularly on Grant and Hill Streets. And that, so that's one thing. We have this 55, and it looks like, without a subsequent noise survey, that we're could be as high as 5 or more over the 55. But second of all, like I said, nobody from Kimberly Horn came to Belton to measure the background, and the background on Allen Avenue is 45 to 50. It's even that high because they hear 71 noise or 49 noise. But anyway, it's 45 to 50 depending on what time of day it is. And
Councilman, I hate to interrupt you, but we do need to stick to the item that is before us, which
Okay.
is not from the 2018 that has already been enacted and approved by the council. We
I
do need-
understand.
And so
Yeah.
I'm just asking that we stay on track with what, at this point, we can't do anything about what happened in 2018.
Yeah.
And we also can't do anything as far as any kind of a noise structure or noise survey because the buildings are not complete and we don't have traffic in there.
Okay.
So anything is just speculation at this point. And so at this point, are there any questions that you have for the director on his presentation
Does this noise,
about this building?
Yes. Does the 2018 noise survey apply to these buildings?
The 2018 study pertained to the original rezoning for Southview Commerce Center. And this is an expansion for Building 4. But I think it's
Expansion for building 4.
Yes, but I think it's very reasonable to assume that that noise study is applicable. These land uses remain the same. The setbacks are greater along the east side of the building than they were for the original Southview Commerce Center. So looking at those facts, I think that the noise study would certainly still be applicable for this building. It's the same land use, essentially the same layouts. And so I feel very comfortable utilizing that in terms of a baseline to go forward.
Okay. Well, that's fine, but I'm just saying that anybody takes 5 minutes to look at this would say that we are now exceeding it because we've jammed it up against Grant and Hill Streets. And I think actually against the new, of course I couldn't find any map that shows both the new housing and this building on the same map, but I think that they're within that 348 feet. So they're going to be noisier than 55. So I think this plan exceeds the noise level that we said was a requirement. But I don't know how we handle that. Maybe you just vote and say, well, we don't care. But anyway, I would contend that. So now I'll be quiet.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. Any additional questions for the director? And we do have the applicant here, so I'd like to give you all an opportunity to just kind of give us a highlight or anything else that maybe you feel like is important for us as a committee to know. So.
How do I open this up? Yeah, it's loaded, it's minimized. I just can't find minimized.
Me either.
Goes out of it.
The other
Go
building
ahead.
is 51, this building is 51 feet tall. What are the other buildings? That's comparison.
51 feet at the corners.
I should have put on this window. Should be loaded at the bottom. There we
And-
go.
Okay.
On this USB.
And Director, while they are doing that and getting it set up, I've got one question for you. The original plan, I believe there was talk about some space being provided for Metropolitan Community College. Is that still a part?
Yes,
I know it's not definitely where they're going to be or anything right now.
Well,
But that is still part of what is.
It's a job training facility designated on the final plan for, yes.
Very good. Okay, all right. Thank you. If you just,
Anyway, yeah, no problem. Introduce myself. I'm Brett Powell, representing the applicant tonight, so North Point. So
thank you, Brett.
kind of run through a few things, I think, pretty high level. So this is kind of the overall park. I know the focus is on the farthest north building, Building 4, but wanted to show it in proximity to the other 3 buildings. The reason we're here with you guys tonight asking for approval for Building 4 is we've had extreme success with the first 3 buildings. I mean, we haven't stopped building out there before they're filled up. So we're completely full in the park, and now we need to move to Building 4. A lot of things. Mr. Clements noted, you can see the berm, you can see the yellow highlighted area here. I can point on this. So here's our berm as we show it, and this is the future residential area that we can address, I think, after this discussion. And then here's the existing neighborhoods. So, Mr. Clements noted the photometric study. So we presented a photometric study in response to the PDP. This is kind of a graphical version, a little more artistic version of how what's represented by that photometric study. So you can see, let me close these things so you guys can see right. So the red areas you can see are greater than 2-foot candles. The north side, south side, and each of our building lights here. Then it decreases to around a 1-foot candle, and then continues to drop as we approach the property line. And then this black line, which is entirely within our property lines, represents the 0-foot candle line. So, and this is the Platte. I don't know if Councilman, if you wanted to see them, kind of the proximity, but that kind of shows the existing.
Yeah, thank you.
So, anyway, so generally, I mean, to Mr. Clements' point, this is very, very similar, if not the exact same as our previously approved PDPs, both through the commission here and through City Council. So we've provided the additional information regarding the photometrics, the light information on the building, the different engineering studies for approval as well. So
Okay, very good. Thank you.
anyway, so I stand for questions. You guys have any questions as well?
Sure. So any questions from the commission for either the director or for the applicant?
Oh, I guess I have one question. Well, Mr. Dave was mentioning the berm there and showing where it is. Is that, and I think he said similar to the other berm, but it'll probably be at the same height, a consistent height, correct? Because I think that's flatter property. Is that?
It's a 10-foot berm with the fencing and the.
But 10-foot berm from the existing elevation, right?
Approximately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We tie in the grades make the engineering drainage work, but yeah. Goal is to have a 10-foot berm, and I'll have landscaping on top with the panelized cedar pickets.
Okay.
And the facade of the building will be similar in structure then to the other 3 existing buildings, is that correct?
That's exactly, yes.
Which I've had some people tell me that they look really nice.
I think that's great. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions, comments? Mr. Christie.
Do berms and trees help reduce the noise volume?
That
Is
is the purpose, Dave. Do you?
I know they're a visual blocker for the building and from the residential, but does that make an effect on the noise?
I believe that the berm and the tree with the wooden wooden fences is designed to help bring the noise
Mitigate the
level
noise,
down,
yes.
going past that.
Well, I would comment that the berms definitely will, if they're close to either the source or the receiver of the noise, if they're in the 50% of the way in the middle, they don't reduce, and they don't reduce noise, maybe 1 to 2 dBA. But I think the noise report, which Dave said we're relying on, takes the credit for 5, but I don't think you'll see 5 unless you stuck it right up against the building or right up against the residents' backyards. But the other thing is the trees won't, and definitely the fence won't. The trees might if they get bushy enough, but the fence won't. I mean, a solid wall would, but not the type of fence I've seen out there right now.
Any other questions? If not, we could entertain a motion. Mr. Donahue?
Make a motion to approve plat, fourth plat.
Okay, we do have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion and second. I ask once more if there's any final comments or questions before we vote.
Just a quick clarification, this is for approval of the final development plan, correct?
Approval of the final
So
development
for
plan.
for the record, the motion is approval of the final development plan, subject to the conditions stated in the staff report.
Right. Thank you. All right, can we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Vest?
Aye.
Commissioner McDonough?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Christie? Councilman Powell?
No?
Mayor Larkey?
Yes.
And Chairman McPherson.
Aye. All right, thank you. So we will move on then to the second part of the Southview consideration for this evening, and that's consideration of a final plat for Southview Commerce Center South, fourth plat, located at 5901 East 155th and 6107 East 155th Street. Director?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application for the fourth plat that accompanies the fourth plan that the Planning Commission just reviewed for Building 4. This preliminary plat was submitted in conjunction with the rezoning and preliminary plan that the City Council and the Planning Commission reviewed in March and April. And this final plat is consistent and identical to the preliminary plat. This is almost a 30-acre site. The lot size is consistent with the other lots in Southview Commerce Center, and the plat is designed to facilitate development of the improved industrial distribution facility of the final plan for Lot 4. All required right-of-way was previously dedicated. There is no additional or new right-of-way with this plat. The final plat includes all appropriate language for utility easements, and as I mentioned earlier, stormwater management will be provided in this open space tract on the north side of the building abutting 55th Street, in addition to additional detention basin on Tract A in the fifth plat, which we'll talk about as the next agenda item. Staff does recommend approval of this final plat to be submitted in conjunction with the final plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Director. Do we have any questions, comments concerning item B? If there are none, would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the final plat for Southview Commerce Center South Plat, fourth plat located at 5901 East 155th Street and 6107 East 155th Street.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll take a second.
Have a second? Any additional comments? Seeing none, may we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Vest,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonough,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Christie,
Aye.
Councilman Powell,
Yes.
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
and Chairman McPherson.
Aye. All right, thank you. That motion has passed. Moving to point C, which is consideration of the final plat for Southview Commerce Center, South 5th Plat, located approximately at 6107 East 155th Street. Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the proposed 5th plat in conjunction with the development of Building 4 in the Southview Commerce Center. And there's a lot of clutter on this plat, so I will show you this heavy dark outline. What we are doing is platting this area here as Tract A in the 5th plat. And this tract will serve as open space to provide the buffer for the single-family homes to the east. And as we discussed with the landscape plan in the earlier application, this buffer area includes a landscape detention area, the 10-foot berm planted with evergreen trees, shrubs, and sections of 6-foot fence, and a preservation area of existing trees. The final plat that we're looking at here is consistent with the document that was submitted with the preliminary development plan. And as we discussed earlier, there is a set aside for required stormwater detention in this tract. The staff does recommend approval of the final plat. This is just a separate instrument serving to implement the requirements necessary for Building 4.
All right, thank you, Director. Do we have any questions, comments concerning point C, Tract 5?
I guess, could you, somebody say to the west of the furthest west dark black line, where is the loading docks? What's the distance from there to the loading docks?
This property line, the loading dock, I don't have that dimension, Mr. Powell.
Okay.
We'd have to go back to the development plan to scale it off for you.
Okay. Well, okay, so if it's a scale thing, then if it hadn't changed from the drawing, okay, gotcha. All right, that's fine, thanks.
Okay, good. Any additional questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the final plat for Southview Commerce Center, South 5th Plat, located approximately 6107 East 155th Street.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Vest. Have a motion and a second. Call one more time for any additional questions, comments. Seeing none, may we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Vest,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonough,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Christie,
Aye.
Councilman Powell,
Yes.
and Mayor Larkey.
Yes.
And the chair votes aye also. And thank you all. I don't know how you keep them all straight, so appreciate the job you do, that's for sure. So, all right, so that motion has carried. And moving on to point D, consideration of the final plat for Sunset Hills, 3rd plat located on the south side of 155th Street at Valley Road and Start Times Drive extended. Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is, as the chairman stated in his introduction, this is a final plat for Sunset Hills 3rd plat. And, you know, I'm just going to state that I think this is a very exciting portion of the overall development plan for Southview Commerce Center Building 4. It's exciting for me to see 26 new single-family lots being dropped in here to serve as a buffer to the existing homes to the east. I think with the proximity of I-49, the new bridge at 155th Street, these are just going to be a great asset to the community. I look at 26 lots of new building permit revenue, new residents with coming in with sales tax, and certainly annual receipts of real estate taxes. So there's just nothing but a plus win situation with this new residential plat. As I stated, this was submitted in conjunction with the final development plan for Building 4. Plat provides for 26 new residential lots. The purpose, as I stated, of the subdivision is to provide new residential lots here to serve as a buffer from existing single-family homes on White Drive at this location. You might remember at the public hearing for the rezoning, there was some questions from these property owners about the distance to the Building 4 and concerns about impact. And I do believe these 26 lots dropped in here is a perfect answer to those concerns. Now, Sunset Hills was originally platted in 2005. The subdivision included 53 lots. No building permits were ever issued, and there were no new homes constructed in Sunset Hills. So this is just a redo and a reuse of that obsolete plat in a much better design and fashion. North Point is proposing to vacate or replat that existing portion of Sunset Hills for the 26 lots. You might remember at the time of the preliminary plan, this was referred to as Southview Residential, and there were 22 lots. In putting this final plat together, North Point reached out to some prospective single-family builders, and builders came back and indicated that 25 or 26 lots would be much more desirable for them than the 22 lots. And North Point addressed that by dropping in an additional lot on the cul-de-sac and then changing the lot width slightly on the west side of Star Times Road. Now, those lots still far exceed the minimum requirements of the R1 zoning district. The minimum lot size is 70 by 120, and these lots are 75 or 80 feet wide and 184 foot depth, so they're 14 to 19,000 square feet, so still very nicely sized single-family lots. Also, we talked about the trail with the final development plan. There is a trail link right here from the cul-de-sac that will extend into the overall trail network at Southview Commerce Center, so great connectivity here, which I think is also an asset to that subdivision. The plat proposes the extension of Star Time roads all the way south here to 157th Street, and the east-west new road would be constructed here to tie in with 157th Street at White Drive at this location. Again, I think it's a great way to utilize this obsolete platting for Sunset Hills to solve the problem that was addressed at the public hearing. So the staff does recommend approval of that proposed Sunset Hills third plat. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Director.
In regard to people that are buying these lots in the future, what does the term buffer mean?
Well, buffer is a setback that provides a separation between land uses as a way to address adverse impact.
So it's not that the people that, it's not that that's going in there to appease or to satisfy existing residents. It's actually, it's something else, I guess. I mean, it wouldn't be a good selling point if I'm new to this planning stuff, maybe buffer means something else, but I wouldn't want, the first thing I heard was that my house was referred to a buffer for somebody else. I have no problem with this. I think that's a great way to put housing in there, but I would just, I'm just not sure what exactly we're accomplishing for the existing residents. But that's okay. Go ahead.
Getting rid of that dump there.
Yeah. No, but yeah. But buffer to me means something that if I'm a buffer, I'm something between somebody over here and somebody over here, and I'm here and the dump's way over there, I guess. So, but they're still gonna have to look through the building to see where the dump was, so.
I think one of the things that I could see that the existing residents would not be, I mean, they're gonna have they're gonna have homes across the street from them now. That they're not just gonna be looking into a junkyard or a dump or anything like that, which I think is what they were currently, and they're not just gonna be looking straight at building number 4. They're gonna be seeing houses. I mean, they're still gonna see building 4, but they're not gonna be looking directly at that. There's gonna be houses that are gonna be in between there
Okay,
for them.
okay.
Any additional comments, questions? Motions?
I make a motion that we approve final plat for Sunset Hills third plat located on the south side of 155th Street at Valley Road and Star Times Drive extended.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We do have that motion. Is there a second? I see a second over here, Mr. McDonough. Any final comments, questions before we vote? May we have the roll call?
Commissioner Vest,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonough. Aye. Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Christie,
Aye.
Councilman Powell,
Yes?
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
and Chairman McPherson.
Aye. So that motion has passed. So that concludes the non-public hearing items that we had for this evening. And, Director?
I thought I would just mention for the Planning Commission, if you haven't seen it yet, Case Apartments are underway with their new 300-unit Center 301 apartment development behind the Target store. Beginning to do some site clearing there, getting ready to start their underground on that project that the Planning Commission approved last year. They're going to build all of that in one phase over the next 12 to 18 months. So take a look at that. I think it's going to be very exciting when they start coming out of the ground with those apartments. I think the visibility from I-49 is just really going to be awesome and kind of set the stage for further desirable development at that location. So we're real excited about that. Pardon me?
Is the hotel still going forward?
Well, the hotel has acquired that property adjacent to that, but they're kind of put it on pause due to COVID and some market considerations. So they own the land, so that's pretty positive. So, and I think that the Case Apartments next to that hotel is going to be just a real natural. And North Point Apartments are proceeding with the Encore development along 163rd Street across from Gateway. And lastly, I'd like to mention that my development companion and peer, Carolyn Yatsuk, recently received an award as the Economic Developer of the Year for the state of Missouri. So let's all acknowledge Carolyn's contributions to the community. It's quite an accomplishment, and it's just a pleasure to work with her on all these great projects. So that's all I have. Thank you. Other than the next meeting will be July 19th. We have one final development plan for that meeting. We have an easement vacation that we're processing, along with a special use permit. I haven't done a special use permit in a while, so that'll just be a public hearing pertaining to that special use application. So with that, I think that's a wrap for me.
All right, thank you, Director. I was telling the Director when I got here tonight that over the weekend, just kind of driving around town, it was like everywhere I looked, I saw dirt being moved and bulldozers and stuff. And it was really kind of exciting because I went by both of the apartment sites and then the car wash and, and then knowing the development that's going on with residential that is something that we have definitely needed for some time. And
Did you go by the cul-de-sac there by Sonic Drive-In?
I didn't.
We have a staff meeting tomorrow.
That'll
Wait.
break down.
We have a staff meeting tomorrow on that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's 2 feet away.
Now they're living there, now they have a trailer where they're living on the property.
I didn't get down that end of town. But it was, it was exciting to see all that's going on and knowing how hard the staff works to not only bring things to us, but the background work that they do before it ever gets to us. I just really appreciate all that has been done and all that is being done now. So as Director said, July 19th will be our next meeting, and
Motion to adjourn?
I see a motion and a second. Any all those in favor? Try and speed this up a little bit. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? We are adjourned.